All right, everyone. It looks like we're live and ready to go. It is 1 p.m. Eastern on the dot. We're going to give folks a couple of 2, 3, 4 minutes to kind of filter in and get comfortable, and then we'll get going. So just give us a couple more minutes. Okay, it's about 4 past the hour, so we'll get going here. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison, and I have the privilege of taking care of our community here at Zapier. And today we are super excited to get a chance to chat with the folks from Wufoo. So Michael from Wufoo is joining me today. How are you, Michael?
Doing good. We're excited to be here as well.
Yeah, we're both repping our respective companies with with our nice hoodies. So it's really fired up to chat with Wufoo today, or about Wufoo and Zapier and all the cool things that you can do to automate your information. We really are passionate about this, I know, on both sides. So we're both big fans of each other, and really excited to get to share some cool ways that people can maybe even expand their usage of Wufoo with doing some automation. So before we kick into things here, let me just make a quick sort of housekeeping note. If you scroll just below my face with the video that you're watching now, there is a there's a chat room right down below it, and we encourage you to ask questions, talk with the other attendees, whatever that might be. We've actually got the two people who probably should be doing this presentation today in the chat room. So Jen from Wufoo and my buddy Andrew, who works with me at Zapier, are in the chat room. Andrew, who works with me, is actually a Wufoo alum, so he knows more about this than probably anyone here. So if you have any questions at all, as Michael and I are kind of talking through things, feel free to pop them in the chat room. Just say hi, whatever you might want to do, and Andrew and Jen will take care of you. And then if we've got a little bit of time at the end, we might tackle some of the bigger questions. But thanks for joining us today, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're really looking forward to it. Like you said, we're big fans of Zapier here, and great to have this opportunity to talk a little bit about how people might benefit from using Wufoo and Zapier together.
Yeah, so before we get going, like into the nitty gritty sort of use cases, I'd love to spend a minute or two just talking about Wufoo in general and what you guys do and what you think that that people can like, how people can benefit, and some of the great things that sort of high level things people can do with Wufoo.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who don't know, Wufoo is an online form builder. A really great way to build quick forms of really any kind, registration forms, contact forms, with a quick, easy drag and drop form builder. It's a great way if you don't want to spend, a couple of weeks building a form in a database, to just in a couple of minutes throw together a quick form, put it on your website, or even we host them for you. Just a really, really quick way to get started with collecting feedback and information on the internet. It's a really natural partner with Zapier because chances are if you're collecting data, you want to do something with that data down the line. And if you can automate that with Zapier, all the better. So we, like I said, we have a lot of people who make contact forms, registrations, signups, payments even. So really any situation where you might need to collect data online, Wufoo can probably help you out in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm really jazzed to talk through a couple of the cool things people can do. But to get super meta with it, we actually Wufoo basically has powered this entire presentation. So chances are, if you are watching right now, you filled out a Wufoo form to register, and I took that information from Wufoo and I populated it into a spreadsheet automatically. And I also sent you a confirmation email through a service called Mailgun, which is like a transactional email we use. So all that was done through Wufoo and connected to Zapier, and we're able to basically run all of our training sessions that way, and it doesn't take any time at all. I mean, it probably takes me 2 minutes literally to get that stuff set up. So we'll kind of walk through a couple of those things, but I thought, we'd bring it as I won't have the opportunity again when doing one of these to say that everything was powered through the people that we're talking to. So really excited to do that. In fact, at the very end, I'll show off my Zapier account, and you can see just how many Wufoo apps I have set up. It's probably over 50 at this point, so it's getting a little out of control. But we'll just hop right in, and I'm going to share my screen here so everyone can see that. And there we go. And then Michael and I will just kind of talk through a couple of ways that you can use Wufoo and then automate that data elsewhere. And the first thing that I really want to start with is spreadsheets. So I know that you can grab your data out of Wufoo into a CSV or something like that. But here, when we're talking about automating that, you might actually have another system or database that you want to get that information into. And so, Michael, I think I'd love to hear you touch on ways that you can kind of expand this data, or why you might want to send your Wufoo data like automatically as it comes in outside of Wufoo instead of just kind of gathering it all at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Like you mentioned, we do have a a basic export where you can create a spreadsheet of your own. But if you want to be managing it as it comes in, or if you're gonna, upload your data to an online spreadsheet anyway, you're much better off using something like Zapier. We see a lot of people who want to use a spreadsheet in cases where you might need custom functions, or if you want to, say, combine data from multiple forms into a single spreadsheet. This is a really great way to do that. So if you have contact forms on 2 or 3 different websites and you want to merge all that data into a single view, it's a great way to just hook up all your forms to a single spreadsheet. Zapier will take care of sending the entries over, and you don't have to worry about manually exporting your data and then importing it into another program.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I honestly would have never thought about the 2 or 3 forms into one spreadsheet, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I thought I would just kind of show what this looks like in principle, so people can just kind of get an idea, and then we'll roll through a couple of other things here as well. But as you can see, I've got this really simple form that I've set up. It's a little cheeky, but I imagine that most of you who are using forms, like the number one thing you want to grab is someone's email address, right? And we can take it out so much further from there, but if you've got this form or forms, there's just a couple of things you need to do, and then we can get that automation started via Zapier right into the spreadsheet. So I've got my form here, which I'll actually use as an example of everything that as we kind of go through things here. And then Google Sheets is really what you'll want to use. I imagine that most of you have access to it. It's probably still sometimes we see it in the Google Docs world, but it's Google Spreadsheet. And there's just one thing to remember here before we kind of get into the automation aspect of it. You really need to get this to work, actually, you've actually got to set the spreadsheet up before you start working on the automation. So you really just want to think about what information that you actually want to hold on to. So here I've got one row set up, my very first row, that mimics the data that I have that I'm capturing in my form. So I've got an email address, I've got these radio buttons here, and then I've got a checkbox. And so that's all the data that I want to grab, and so that I mimic that in my spreadsheet. So I've got my email address, I've got what field they filled out, and then whether or not they checked the checkbox. And then underneath it, I actually have some sample data. So, and you'll see where this kind of comes into play. So once you get that done, you just need to think about, again, what you want to match up from your form over to your spreadsheet. And then we can come into Zapier and get that set up. And so I thought I would take everyone through what this looks like really quickly, and then we'll touch on some more advanced techniques here as we move through things. But this is really, really simple, right? So we're just thinking about what happens and what we want to happen. So in all of these instances, we're saying when I get a new entry on my form, I want a specific thing to happen. So here we're saying new entry on the form is going to create the spreadsheet row in Google Docs. And I've got my accounts connected here, so I've got my Wufoo account connected, I've got my Google Docs account connected. If you don't have those connected already, you can do that. But what I really want to kind of get down to is the meat of the automation. So this is really, really simple at a very high level, right? So all I'm doing is I'm saying when this particular form is filled out, I want step 5 to happen. I want the next thing to happen. So we're saying anytime anyone fills out this particular form, and you can see that's the name of it here, I'd like to capture your info, and that's the form that I've selected here from this drop-down. The drop-down will have all of my forms, all of my Wufoo forms in my account. So I've just selected the form, and I'm saying when a new entry happens on this form, I want to match that entry up to a row in my spreadsheet. So you can see here I actually have the headers that match my spreadsheet row. So I've got email address, what field, get newsletter, and that's what I'm going to bring over from Wufoo and match up to my spreadsheet. So when I click on Insert Fields here, I have, you can see I've got that field from Wufoo, and I'm matching it up to my Google Docs spreadsheet row, and it's really, really simple. So when it's all said and done, if I got my test to run here, I can see what's going to go over to my spreadsheet coming over from Wufoo. So I've got Joe's email address. he checked the checkbox, so that information is there, and I know what selection he made in the form. So really, really simple. That's going to go automatically over to my spreadsheet. All I had to do is remember I need to match up what's coming over from my Wufoo form and then where I want that to go in the spreadsheet. And once that's done, you see this takes no longer than a minute or two. Now, anytime anyone fills out this form, it's going to automatically populate into the spreadsheet that I selected. And then, like Michael said, you can actually do this several times. So you could choose different forms here in step 4, and then have the same spreadsheet that you chose in step 5. And so anytime any of those forms are filled out, they all come and aggregate into the same spreadsheet. So pretty cool way to automate all of that data that you've got coming in through Wufoo. And I imagine it's a fair amount once you start really getting into using forms and different forms, and just automatically send it to that spreadsheet, and you don't have to think about it again until you're ready to go use that data. So that's probably one of the most popular ways we see people using Zapier, and automation is just simply grabbing those forms and creating those spreadsheets. But if we dig a little bit deeper, not just grabbing all data, but maybe we're using forms for lead generation. So I love, from Michael, if you want to chat about grabbing email subscribers, because I know that this is a really, really popular use of forms too. So any way that you've got forms on your website or elsewhere, and you're using that to grab data, grab email data, I guess, for better lack of a term, and then automatically, populating your email marketing platform with that.
Yeah, since Wufoo forms are so easy to create, a lot of people will use them, if they don't have their own fully functioning website, maybe they just run a blog or a simple landing page, and they can drop a Wufoo form in, to collect emails for leads, or for just a general mailing list. Maybe you're starting a contest and you want people to be able to sign up for that. You said before, if you're building an online form, chances are you're going to ask for an email address, just because that's the best way to contact people, usually over these types of setups. And there's tons of applications. Most people, I would say, that create a form do include some sort of email address, and it's really kind of a no-brainer to then aggregate that list of addresses into a dedicated email service to make it easier for you to then reach out to those users.
Yeah, and one great way we can kind of help out with that is segmentation. And so I think that, that's becoming more and more important these days, as you're not just necessarily collecting a list of email addresses, but you might actually want to put those email addresses into a certain list or group or segment or whatever your email marketing platform does, and that is something that Zapier can really help out with. So if we look at the same setup like we just did for the spreadsheet, it functions exactly the same, but there's one interesting twist that you can kind of put onto this, and that's filters. So if I'm looking at this same Wufoo form that I was before, so you can see, like, again, capturing the email address, but we're having the person who fills out that form self-select in some way. So what I can do as far as capturing that for leads, lead generation, email marketing, whatever that might be, I can actually filter down to a specific segment and a specific list in my email marketing platform. So here I'm saying, like I said, exact same setup as we just looked at for the spreadsheet, with a little twist. So anytime anyone fills out my form, I'm actually going to filter on these buttons I have here. So if someone makes a selection, I can then funnel them into a specific list or group or bucket, or however we want to think about it. So here I'm saying, by using these filters, when someone fills out this particular field, so what field are you in, again, is what matches this sort of self-selector I have in my form. If someone includes marketing there, which again is one of the buttons here, so if someone selects marketing, that is the only thing that's going to trigger this particular zap, and then that is going to funnel directly into the group that I have specified. So now instead of anyone who fills out my form, I have filtered it down to just a specific set of people. So here I could say if I had a group, here we're looking at Emma, which is an email marketing platform, but there's many, so it just depends on what your email marketing software classifies this as. I've seen it groups, lists. I imagine there's others that Andrew and Jen have seen that they can pop into the chat room there. Whatever your platform calls it, you can put this person into that bucket, funnel, list, group, whatever that might be. So now I'm saying we actually don't have any set up in our Emma account, but if I had this drop down here, I could basically pick that group. So if I had a marketing group and I wanted this person to go into that group, or anyone who fills out my form, I guess is a better way of saying that. So anyone who fills out my form and they select marketing, they're going to go into my marketing group in my email software, and I can grab their email address from Wufoo, like that. And now anyone who fills out the form, selects marketing in that little selector there, their email address is going to go directly into my email platform of choice, into the list or group or category that I've specified. So I'm not getting everyone into that list. I'm not getting anyone who fills out my form. I'm getting a specific subset of people. And you can do this across the board. So I could set up one zap per every option I had here. So I could have one for development, I could have one for support, and that way I could segment my email marketing list out to just those people, and I know that the people are getting into the right buckets and getting into the right places without me having to worry about it. So it's automatically happening in the background. I can go out and worry about anything else that I want to, and I know that the right people are getting into my right list and to my email marketing platform. And we have integrations with tons of email marketing platforms. So again, this covers just about anything you can think of: Aweber, Campaign Monitor, Emma, Constant Contact, MailChimp, anything you see here, Intercom, Mad Mimi, any way that you want to segment that data that you're gathering into certain email marketing buckets, you can easily do that. So something fun to play around with, and when you're grabbing that data, it's real great to just chop it up and not have to worry about it. And I think the last thing that I find really interesting about automating data from forms is all of the great project management aspects of that. Michael, have you guys seen people using forms a lot to maybe create items in project management or to-do lists or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most common ones is for like an IT ticket system. If you have a contact form on your website for people to report maybe bugs or any issues they're having, you could then hook that up to whatever your ticket or issue tracking system is that you're using for your developers or for your IT team. And that's a great way to automatically import that data into whatever system you're using for your actual to-do list, rather than having to, go through an email or look in the entries manually. If you're using any kind of popular project management, ticket tracking, it just really makes sense to automate that process rather than adding an extra step. And it's definitely something that is a really useful way to use Zapier.
Yeah, so I know we have Trello up here as an example, but that really goes across the board. So any sort of help desk, so Zendesk, Help Scout, man, I mean, I think if we take a step back and sort of look at this even more high level than that, it's just about, do you have some sort of way that you need to keep certain information organized, whether that's bug tracking, a to-do list, help desk, anything like that, CRM data, basically any way that you can think about capturing that information and funneling it into a specific place. Automation is great for that, and we're using Trello here as an example, but again, I think that you could, like Michael said, help desk is a really great option there too. So instead of worrying about capturing people's information or their contact, the fact that they're reaching out to you, you've got your form on your website, and that automatically is going to create that issue, that bug, that email, whatever that might be. So the sky's really the limit here. One quick thing that I'll just show off, because I haven't quite gotten to that yet, is the good old checkbox. And this is something that we use ourselves a ton. And just like I was showing off the last example about filtering on certain selections, you can also do that for the checkboxes too. So if you get, let's say in this specific example I've got here, let's say someone fills out your form and you've got a checkbox on your form, and if they check the box, you want to create some sort of to-do for yourself or email yourself or something like that. And if they don't, then maybe you don't want this specific thing to happen. But you can do that with the filter sets, which I love. And again, like I said, we use ourselves all the time. So if you're using a checkbox, if we're saying on this particular form that we've been looking at, you can select on that checkbox. So for this particular form, the checkbox is actually this sign me up for your newsletter. And all I need to say is, does this exist? And if it exists, and again, this checkbox could be for anything, just, the sky's the limit. So if this checkbox exists, if someone checks this box, then this automation is going to trigger. So maybe if someone checks that box, I, again, want a to-do item on my to-do list, or I want that help desk ticket to create, or I want that GitHub issue to create, or anything like that. You can filter down to that checkbox. Really, really cool. And then again, here in Trello, I can just click on Insert Fields, and I can create that to-do based on that entry on my form. So I've got a name there coming over from my form. I've got the email address. I've basically got everything that I would need from my form to create this to-do or create this help ticket, or again, any sort of like contact point with you. But instead of it happening every time someone fills out my form, it's only when someone checks the checkbox. So it's just another great way to kind of filter that data down and get it exactly where you want, because with forms, you have the opportunity to do anything you want, but you might not necessarily want all of that data going to a certain spot. So I highly recommend playing around with the filters, and radio buttons or multiple choice or checkboxes are really, really great ways to kind of filter down that data. And with project management, we've got all kinds of ways you can go here. Anything from Asana to Basecamp, bug tracking, GitHub. Clio is a really cool lawyer project management system. GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. There's so many things you can do with that information that you're grabbing from your form. Just maybe a little bit liberal use of filters, and you can get that information funneling and creating exactly where you want it to behind the scenes without you having to worry about it. One last thing, that got a little big. There we go. One last thing I'll mention here before we kind of kick it into a little Q&A time. This is my contact information, or contact@zapier.com is the best way to get a hold of us. That actually goes to our entire team. So if you have any questions at any other time that you want to chat through, this is a really great way to get in touch with us. I'm not sure, Michael, I'm not sure if you have been perusing the chat room at all. I'm just curious if there's any other questions or comments or things that that you think is worth mentioning as far as Wufoo and automating data goes.
One other thing that I know we talked about a little bit earlier was the integrating with things like Slack or HipChat. That's one that a lot of people don't really think of, because they think of forms as more of a slower process where you're gonna collect some entry data, do something with it later in bulk. But one thing that we've seen people use that's kind of cool is you can connect a form to any chat program that you're using. For example, if you've got a lead form and you want to be notified at the exact moment that somebody submits that form, so you want that notification to go right to your chat program, that's a really cool way to be notified of anything that's really important up to the minute, that a lot of people don't really think about.
Yeah, and I promised I would show off. I would show everyone just truly how much Wufoo powers the Allison Grove Zapier world, but here it is. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. So I have a lot of Wufoo stuff happening, but I mean it's so powerful because I don't have to. I'm not a developer, and I'm not reliant on my developers to help me with anything.
Mhm.
I can create that form. I can embed that form easily anywhere that I want, and I can use it in any way that I want to gather information. In fact. I just set it up today to gather names and email addresses of anyone who wants Zapier stickers. So they fill out my Wufoo form, and then I have Wufoo email me with that address. So I get an email anytime anyone fills out the form with their address, and so I can just quickly like send that off to them. So Wufoo is pretty much powering Allison's life at this moment in time. So I thank you for making it so easy.
Oh yeah, no, it's great, and it goes both ways. The form idea is so, general that you can really collect any kind of data, and it's great to be able to, use Zapier to connect to dozens and dozens of other apps and services that you can really just about anything you can think of or anything that you need to do with your form data, you can automate. And that's just it's great to be able to point people in that sort of a resource that they can go and check out rather than having to build their own integration or something like that.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear about the crazy ways that people use Wufoo and Zapier. Our friends over at Buffer actually use one of the perks that they have inside their company is they can get books anytime they want
Hmm.
for their Kindle. So they actually use a Wufoo form to request the book, and then someone will buy them the book through like the company Amazon account, and then that purchase gets sent through Zapier to HipChat, so everyone on the team knows what everyone else is reading. And so, I mean, you can really get really creative with the ways that you can use your forms and automating that data. It's like if you think about any way that you want to get data or how you would want data coming to you, we can probably help out with that. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. I know we'll hang out in the chat room a little bit longer, or really as long as we need to answer questions that anyone's having. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. I hope that this was helpful. I know we liked kind of getting down a little granular and not only high level, like just some general ideas, but showing you ways that you can really sort of pin down things and filter out and get data moving in just the way you want. So thank you, Michael, for joining us today, and Jen and Andrew in the chat room. This was a lot of fun, and like I said, we do love us some Wufoo here at Zapier.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This was great, and hope people had a chance to learn about some new integrations.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll hang out for as long as we need to, but we'll sign off in the chat room, but we'll sign off here from now. So thanks everyone for
All right,
coming,
sounds
and
good.
we'll chat
Thank
soon.
you.